The Formula One paddock is on a knife's edge, with Mercedes' championship hopes hanging by a thread. Just days before the cars are set to hit the track for the Australian Grand Prix, the FIA is considering a move that could effectively ban a key part of their new power unit, a decision that would throw their season and that of their customer teams into absolute chaos. This isn't just a technical dispute. It's a political firestorm that threatens to reshape the entire 2026 grid before a single red light has gone out. The controversy centers around a so-called clever trick that Mercedes has engineered into their new power unit. For the 2026 season, the FIA has set a strict limit on the compression ratio of the engines, fixing it at 16:1. This ratio is a measure of how much the air-fuel mixture inside a cylinder can be compressed before it ignites. A higher compression ratio generally means more power and better efficiency. While all teams must adhere to the 16:1 limit, it appears Mercedes has found a loophole, a way to effectively increase this ratio under certain conditions, giving them a significant performance advantage, and their rivals are not happy about it. Leading the charge against Mercedes is, unsurprisingly, Ferrari. According to reports, the Scuderia is claiming that the FIA has no choice but to ban this interpretation of the rules before the first race. They are arguing that while Mercedes may be technically compliant with the letter of the law, they are violating its spirit. This is a classic Formula One battleground, where engineering genius clashes with regulatory intent. To understand the significance of this, you have to understand what the compression ratio actually does. In simple terms, it's a measure of how much the engine can squeeze the air and fuel in the cylinder before it ignites. The more you can squeeze it, the bigger the bang and the more power you get. The FIA has set the limit at 16:1 to ensure a level playing field, but Mercedes has reportedly found a way to manipulate the combustion process, allowing them to effectively exceed this limit at key moments, such as at the start of a race or when deploying energy for an overtake. It's a subtle but powerful advantage, and one that could be worth several tenths of a second per lap. The FIA has made it clear that they will not tolerate teams exploiting loopholes that have been kept secret, and this has put Mercedes' innovation directly in the crosshairs. The situation is a ticking time bomb. If the FIA sides with Ferrari and the other disgruntled teams, Mercedes would be forced to re-engineer a fundamental part of their power unit. This is not a simple software update. It's a hardware change that would require a massive effort to design, manufacture, and validate in an incredibly short amount of time. The logistical nightmare would be immense, and the performance implications could be devastating. It would not only cripple the Works Mercedes team, but also their two customer teams, Williams and McLaren. A third of the grid could be starting the season with a compromised power unit, all because of a last-minute rule change. This puts the customer teams in an incredibly awkward position. On one hand, they benefit from the performance of the Mercedes power unit, and they certainly don't want to see their supplier hobbled by a rule change. On the other hand, they are independent teams with their own ambitions, and they don't want to be seen as being in Mercedes' pocket. Their silence on this issue so far has been deafening, and it speaks to the delicate political balancing act they are being forced to perform. If you want to stay on top of this developing story and get the inside track on all the political drama and technical battles that define modern Formula One, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and your support helps us bring you the in-depth analysis that goes beyond the headlines. Of course, Mercedes is not taking this lying down. Team principal Toto Wolff has come out swinging, stating that the team has been in constant dialogue with the FIA throughout the design process. "We have had all the assurances that what we did was according to the rules." This is a crucial point. Mercedes is arguing that they have been transparent with the governing body and have received the green light for their design. They are, in effect, calling the other team's bluff. They are daring the FIA to reverse a decision that they have already implicitly approved. This is a high-stakes game of political poker, and Mercedes is holding a very strong hand, but the other teams are not without their own weapons. They can, and likely will, threaten to protest the Mercedes car at the first race in Melbourne. This would create a legal and logistical nightmare for the FIA, and it would cast a shadow of uncertainty over the entire event. It's a tactic that has been used before in Formula One, and it's a powerful way for teams to force the FIA's hand. The threat of a protest and the negative publicity that would come with it might be enough to convince the FIA to act, even if they believe Mercedes has done nothing wrong. Adding another layer of intrigue to this story is the voice of Adrian Newey, the legendary designer and now team principal of Aston Martin. While he didn't name Mercedes directly, he did state that one manufacturer was not aligned with the others on the interpretation of the power unit regulations. This is a classic Newey move, a subtle but powerful statement that adds weight to the claims against Mercedes. When a figure of his stature speaks, the paddock listens. His words lend credibility to the idea that Mercedes has found a significant advantage and that the other teams are right to be concerned. The FIA is now in an incredibly difficult position. On one hand, they have a group of powerful manufacturers led by Ferrari demanding a rule change to maintain a level playing field. On the other hand, they have Mercedes, who claim to have followed the rules and received prior approval for their design. If they ban the Mercedes innovation, they risk being seen as caving to political pressure and punishing a team for being too clever. It would set a dangerous precedent, one that could stifle innovation and encourage teams to protest any design that they can't replicate. The FIA's own credibility is on the line. If they are seen to be making up the rules as they go along, it undermines their authority and creates a chaotic environment where teams are constantly looking for ways to bend the rules. But if they don't act, they risk being seen as weak and ineffective, unable to control the powerful manufacturers that dominate the sport. It's a no-win situation, and whatever they decide, they are sure to face a backlash from one side or the other. But if they don't ban it, they risk allowing one team to have a potentially dominant advantage, which could lead to a predictable and boring season. This is the fundamental dilemma of Formula One. How do you balance the need for technical innovation with the desire for close, competitive racing? How do you write rules that are tight enough to prevent one team from running away with the championship, but loose enough to allow for engineering creativity? There is no easy answer, and the FIA's decision on this matter will have far-reaching consequences. It will not only determine the outcome of the 2026 season, but also send a clear message about the future direction of the sport. We've seen this movie before. In 2009, the double diffuser controversy dominated the start of the season, with Brawn GP gaining a massive advantage from a clever interpretation of the rules. In 2014, the hybrid era began with Mercedes having a dominant power unit that the other teams couldn't match. And in 2022, the ground effect regulation saw Red Bull emerge with a car that was in a class of its own. In each case, the FIA was forced to make difficult decisions that had a profound impact on the championship, and now they are facing another one of those moments. For now, the teams and drivers can only wait. The engineers at Mercedes are likely working around the clock, preparing contingency plans in case the ban is introduced. The other teams are lobbying the FIA, making their case for why the Mercedes design should be outlawed. And the drivers, who have spent the winter preparing for the new season, are now facing the prospect of a championship that could be decided in a meeting room rather than on the racetrack. The tension is palpable, the stakes are incredibly high, and as the clock ticks down to the Australian Grand Prix, the entire Formula One world is holding its breath, waiting to see how this high-stakes political drama will unfold. Will the FIA back down and allow Mercedes to keep their advantage? Or will they bow to the pressure from the other teams and enforce a last-minute rule change that could throw the championship into chaos? We'll find out soon enough. But one thing is for sure, the 2026 Formula One season has already begun, and the first battle is being fought not on the track but in the corridors of power,